Hello, Dharma Circle. I have a special guest with me today. Tiffany is going to be joining me to talk all about astrological gems. I love talking with her. We have so much fun, and also she's so wise. So let's get her in here. And of course, I'm Swati, the Embodied Dharma coach, and also a guest teacher in my Embodied Vedic Astrology course. And I'm excited to share more about that with you today as well. Tiffany, are you with us? I can.
I am here.
Are
Can you
you
hear
hearing
me
me
okay?
okay? Great. I hope these
Sound
earbuds
great.
last. Let's try to make it work today, Mercury. That's
May
right.
Mercury be on our side
And
today.
speaking of Mercury, you're going to be sharing with us, and I always love talking to you because we learn something new. And the astrological gem component, the Jyotish component, every time we connect, you share something. I don't know, you lay something amazing on us. So maybe we start with Mercury. Mercury is exalted right now. We're being blessed with this once a year, this good communication, clear mind, and good connection with thought and the power of our mind. And I know emeralds are connected to Mercury. Tell us a little bit about emeralds and where do you want to begin, Tiffany? Because I know you've been doing this for so many years and you are just a wealth of knowledge. So,
That's a great place to start, warming up. Yes, loving this Mercury transit. It's feeling good. When it comes to activating Mercury with a Vedic gemstone, we know, of course, that some rising signs or ascendants are going to benefit from wearing emerald more so than others. Gemini ascendant and Virgo ascendant almost always relate and resonate with emerald because Mercury is their ruling planet. Something that's kind of interesting about emeralds within their spectrum of color is that you can get customized benefit depending on that range of color. So the light minty green stones tend to act more upon the kind of ethereal, cerebral, creative Gemini side of Mercury, and that deeper green stone tends to have much more grounding
oh,
Virgo
interesting.
qualities to
Yeah,
it. So I've always found
that's
that kind of
fascinating.
interesting. I played around. Yeah, it is. It's so fun to be able to fine tune. And the more I do this, the more I realize there's different wonderful applications. For example, the air signs often do better with that light minty green tone. Tends to activate the more resonant Gemini side, which tends to be more beneficial for them. I would say that in certain cases, that Virgo quality, we know Virgo is almost such attention to detail, almost critical at times. I have found with myself playing around trying to strengthen my 10th house as a Sagittarian, that sometimes that deep green emerald, it just whips me into shape and it just highlights every single thing I could be doing a little bit better. And if I'm not in that mode, it can be incredibly uncomfortable to be like, I was doing a great job. And that Mercurian, like, hey, you know, you are, but you could do better. And sometimes that
Mm.
requires a certain personality to receive that corrective feedback. But that can be an effect of activating the
I
Virgo
think I relate
spirit
to that.
with an
My Mars
emerald.
is in Virgo. We've just had, a month and a half of Mars in Virgo. We only get this every two
Yes.
years. Mars actually moves into Libra today. So, oh, sad to see this clarity and this focus go. But
Oh,
yes, you just described me. I'm very blunt, uh, clear, focused, and clear communication. So that Virgo energy can be used very well. It can also be a little scathing and cutting at times. So we just need to be mindful
yes.
of how we use
Yes.
that clarity, and also some may need that emerald. I suppose that would be if Mercury was not very strong in your chart. Is that correct?
I love that question because we have such a
Mm,
spectrum of not very strong. So sometimes
mm.
we could consider an affliction, like Mercury being in a challenging house. And some people will jump right to strengthening the planets. Maybe it's in the 12th house or the 8th house, thinking that's a challenge, that's a weakness. But the more I do this, the
Mm.
more I realize how much power, hidden power is in these houses. Again, just like we were talking about kind of critical feedback when you're doing karmic course correction, the same thing happens if you activate a planet in a challenging house. That
Oh,
karma doesn't go
right.
away. It's highlighted. And something I
Mm.
found, a lot of like astrologers and mystics have very
Hmm.
active eighth house placements. Sometimes their ruling planet maybe is in their eighth or eighth lord in the first. But if you're activating a planet in one of these challenging houses with a gem, it highlights all of that data,
Mm.
all of that hidden knowledge, all of that transcendent opportunity. And some people are like, I just wanted to make more money. I just wanted my relationship to get easier. Like, whoa, what are we unpacking here? So when we talk about strengthening a planet that is, like you said, weak, context for that. I think you and I would both agree that these certain placements aren't necessarily weak.
Mm.
They're just rich with opportunity for learning and
Brilliant.
transformation. And that's what will come up. On the other Yes, it's so fascinating. And on the other end of the spectrum, if we have
Uh-huh.
a planet that's like Sandy or a 0 degree, that is an
Oh.
excellent candidate for a gemstone in many cases. Maybe that planet is trying so hard to express itself, but that weak
Mm.
degree placement is prohibiting it from expressing itself fully. Great
Wow.
use of a gem if that corresponding
That's
planet is
really interesting.
in your
Yeah, I
chart.
tend to get a lot of Sandi clients. I myself have a Sandi Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
although I've been told many times never wear a blue sapphire. Um, but, and I know we have to be careful with those blue sapphires, but that makes, yeah.
We have
I
to
was just going to
with
say,
them. Sorry, go
it's
ahead.
so
What are you gonna say?
interesting to hear you say that because um, as an embodied Vedic astrologer, as I call my work, um, I think of those and I know, I sense Sandi planets to be very spiritual and they can be very disembodied, but something like a Sandi Saturn gives the opportunity for that somatic awareness, that finer feeling level that you wouldn't get if Saturn were just plumb, well placed, firm, grounded, right? It's
Right.
a little bit more,
Tool.
it's body, but it's that sensing of the body.
I love that.
Very
And
ethereal.
ethereal sensing too. Integrating with the ethereal worlds. I really do like that. And it seems like for certain people, like you mentioned, to recognize the value and the talent, again, that word weak is such a fascinating word because the more I dig around, it's like there's
Ah,
almost
yeah.
always two sides to something. So like you're a weak Saturn, that person will have a higher degree of sensitivity perhaps to things that really too grounded
Very true.
person might not recognize. And I appreciate your point about how, normally you wouldn't wear a blue sapphire. And I agree with that. In general, we want to make sure that we are strengthening our friendly and our supportive and our auspicious planets. But again, the more
Mm.
I do this, the more nuance there is. I would not be surprised if I talked to you over a cup of tea someday. We started talking about Saturn. You might say to me, Saturn's been one of my biggest teachers. And I'd probably say the exact same thing to you.
Ah,
Saturn is the most tough
yeah.
love I have ever experienced. True resistance training. I'm so much
It's
stronger
a great way to say it. Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
there's always this context and this script that can be flipped to recognize the value even in our
Totally.
malefics. But do you want to dial that up and amplify it with a
Yeah.
gemstone? Would you really want that buzz of Saturn in your body, that weight for the Scorpio ascendant with Saturn ruling over the fourth house? I often think Scorpios can be so rich, but almost kind of
What?
brooding, and they can like lean towards kind of the shadow side.
Where
I'm
is
just
this
kidding. I'm
coming
just
from?
kidding. I'm sure you can't relate to that
We
in the
get such a
slightest
bad
bit.
rap,
But
Tiffany.
I do, yeah.
Oh, that's
Scorpio is
nice
my
to
favorite
hear.
sign, just to be clear. I have 5 planets in Scorpio myself.
Wow.
So
Well,
anything
no
I
wonder
say,
I like you so much.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's our Scorpio vibe.
Yeah,
We're vibing
I
on that
know,
one
and
for
that's that
sure.
eighth house reminder. the eighth house is where a lot of healers and mystics are comfortable and familiar with that. I call it the charnel grounds or the animal body, you know, that place where it's not it's certainly not surface level material world stuff. And if we're not comfortable with grief work and our shadow work, then the eighth house is terrifying. But if that has become our normal, and we've learned from this place, this hole in the ground, it can be very comforting. I actually have to remember to come out of the hole. It's like, okay, you get out of there for a minute and greet the light of day, you know. But not everyone, and certainly our culture and our Western centric society, that's not really where most people hang out. And as a result, we're not in right relationship with that darkness in our culture. So this brings up a question, though, because if there is so much nuance, and by the way, I totally agree with this, because otherwise we're doing baby Jyotish, you know, this right, wrong, good, bad. There's actually no such thing. And the more we study Jyotish, we really understand nuance. And again, bringing it back to the body, how does your body feel? What does your body need? And using the chart in that way as a reference point. But with the prescription of a Jyotish gemstone, we know we can't be cavalier willy-nilly. You know, growing up in the spiritual community that we both have come from, there was a lot of that. You know, it's like, oh, someone gave me some coral and I just want to wear it. Or, you know, I'm sure it'll help, you know,
I'm sure.
Or why not, you know, someone gifted me with a yellow sapphire and I just love it. And then, you know, their car breaks down and everything, but everything's fine. You know? So we do have to be careful. Yes. And I also want to say the flip side, because coming back to that emerald, and I think I shared this in the last time we talked, but it's one of the most incredible stories that I have with gemstones. A friend who was really struggling financially entered, I believe, his Mercury Mahadash, ended up being prescribed a emerald, started wearing that, became a multimillionaire. His business just exploded. So, I mean, there's also that example, right? So how do you do what you do, knowing that there is so much nuance? Not every chart is the same. You can't just say, this planet's weak, let's boost this, right? So how do you do it?
Yes, I love that question. Such a good question. The more I do this, the more I listen before I speak. And that's the main way. And like you mentioned, we have these success stories of people amassing incredible amounts of wealth. And in those situations, frequently I almost feel like that destiny was there for them, but they just needed a little more frequency to receive it. Something was blocked in the money pipeline, and the gemstones just activated that channel so that wealth could just come in waves for them, like it was meant to. So sometimes we have like a certain element of destiny that's meant for us. I love how much you speak about Dharma. And one of the things I ask my clients a lot, frequently they're not clear what their Dharma is. And that's a real big one for me. You know, not only what do you feel like you want to do, sometimes we have to workshop that, but what do you want to do? What do you want? And I think we touched on this a little bit last time as well, is such an operative question for me. Because if I'm blindly recommending gems for a chart, I can see planetary tendencies, but I don't know how much conscious work somebody has done, how much free will element they have put into their lives to course correct any afflictions just by being conscious in their day-to-day lives and being self-aware in their day-to-day lives. There's so much you can take remedial action for, as you know, in Jyotish chart, simply by being self-aware. And some people are truly on this journey already, and they've done so much work by the time that they find us. And then it's like, okay, awesome. Like, do you want to dig in the corners and the shadows and just do a little more to get things rolling for yourself. Or then there's other people I find that contact me, and every single thing they tell me, I always just listen in the beginning. Everything they tell me is blame. Well, this person's doing this. My boss doesn't like this. I have all of these problems, a lot of generalizations. Everybody does this to me all the time. This is happening. And I need a gem to X, Y, and Z. And that tells me to fix. And that tells me that they're not going to receive gem therapy in a way that's going to really transform them. And I will be a lot more selective, maybe boost a planet that's already strong and well placed. So it's easy. Like you had mentioned kind of baby codish. There's baby Vedic gemology too. You're a Pisces, you got Jupiter in the first house, a lot of other stuff going on, but you got some graces there keeping you afloat. Let's just put a little yellow sapphire on you for that. Just
on the
cake a little bit.
Let's put a little more frosting over there.
Right on top. That is exactly how it is. And then, there's other interesting, for example, right now I'm working with a really wonderful lady, and she was prescribed a 5-carat cat's eye, a K2 gem. And my first thought was, okay, let's talk about this. Her astrologer said, that'll bring you so much wealth. And I thought, boy, to me, K2, I don't associate that with wealth, almost the opposite, but so I just got to talking to her and shut my mouth and I opened my ears. And what she wound up telling me was that her biggest desire is amassing spiritual knowledge. She wants to completely have the opportunities financially to take trips to foreign countries and work with gurus. She is so hungry for spiritual advancement and spiritual knowledge. And she's actually got money, but she wants just enough to make spiritual education a casual hobby for herself. And I thought, this might make sense looking at her K2 placement and everything else, because her intention was so clear. She wasn't going into it complaining about her K2 dasha. She wasn't, it was so targeted. So I sent her the stone, 2-week return policy. She got it yesterday. She's already bonding with it. She's feeling great with it. If I were to immediately cancel that whole thing with my straightforward opinions, well, you don't want to strengthen K2 for money and just, too black and white. So the art of listening for her intentions, I actually think the frequency of K2 to enhance her spiritual knowledge. She said she used to have more kind of attachment stuff she's letting go of, and she's shedding all these layers of skin right now, like a snake almost, this new part of herself too. I thought, all right, let's do it. Let's try it. But she has the opportunity to return it. Whenever we do something like strengthen a natural malefic like K2, the shadow planets, I extend my return privileges, because sometimes that talk about shadow work with the shadow planets, that can get deep, that can get heavy. Normally we don't see dangerous side effects. Chances are, her house isn't going to come crumbling down or anything, but the deeper that people go, the more uncomfortable it can get. So the door's open, give it back if it's getting too real for you.
So how much of that is the individual being attracted or drawn to a stone as well? So, because I'm hearing, cat's eye. I absolutely detest cat's eye. Ooh, I know. I just don't even look on your website. I'm like, scroll past, get rid of this. I just don't have any affinity whatsoever. So, I mean, more power to you, I guess, if you see a cat's eye and you're like, that's my stone.
Truly. And there are truly K2 people out there. You may have.
You mean I'm not K2 enough for you? I'm a little more Mars than K2. But yeah, that's a Scorpio joke, if anyone.
No, that's good.
Oh, yes.
Mula, which has a lot of K2 stuff
moon.
On. It's there.
Wow, that's so interesting. I get a lot of Mula moon clients or Mula clients with Mula.
I can see that.
Mother had Mula ascendant too, so I'm very familiar with the Mula. Yes,
how
very eclectic.
Yes. Always, can't help it. But to get back to your question, which I just love, how do you know what kind of approach to take when it comes to recommending a gemstone? listening, making sure that I don't assume I know everything about how to do this until I figure
Mm-hmm.
out where somebody's at in their
Absolutely.
karmic and conscious journey. And then by default, especially if I don't have the opportunity to really speak with somebody for a long time, I go for the most auspicious planets, usually the trine rulers in most cases, but not all cases.
Mm-hmm.
First, fifth, and ninth house. Find them when they're well placed in the chart, not terrible afflictions. And like we were discussing, the icing on the cake, you know, it's the good, it's activating the good, it's adding more blessings, amplifying what may already be there and need to come through. By default, I start there because that to me guarantees that the gems are going to be safe. There's nothing crazy that's going to happen. We're not going to dig up anything unresolved. The results are very predictable. And then when we get into those auspicious but challenged planets, that's where we really have to get targeted in our intentions for the gems and do our best to predict the results as accurately as possible. An auspicious but afflicted planet, there's a journey there. And you're probably going to go through that journey in this lifetime anyway. Hopefully, you'll be probably called to sort out that karma of that afflicted planet. Might even become obsessive at times as you're working through whatever it signifies. The gemstone's going to put that on fast forward, so you can clear through this karma as efficiently as possible. So the rest of your life in this lifetime, you can focus on other stuff.
So fascinating.
Clears
I
it
love
out.
that
Yeah.
use of digging up, because I'm imagining that these gems being of the earth bring this frequency of the earth to the surface, and then are catalysts or reflectors for very precise karmas or experiences, needs, feelings, embodied expressions. And that is absolutely individual and unique. I mean, when we just think about the body and the way that the body is so unique, so individual, an emerald on your body would be completely different than how my body responds to an emerald. Just like an herb or, you know, whatever environment. I say this a lot to my clients, you know, you can't put an orchid in the desert and expect it to thrive. Like, you have to honor and own you're an orchid. So first, know thyself, right?
Yes.
Like, accept, honor who you are,
Exactly.
what your body needs, and then respond accordingly. I imagine it's similar with the gems, and I'm thinking about our last conversation where you just kind of blew my mind with the quality of these gems and how they have these unique individual expressions. I mean, I think of them like devatas. They're literally these individual beings, and there's an invitation, and there's either an attraction or a repulsion, like, no, we're not meant. And think about environments, people, connections. We either gravitate towards something, or it's oh, no, not my place or my realm.
Yes, I love that you're dialing in on this because we are so blessed to find that people do experience a physiological response to the gemstones in many cases, even just looking at them through pictures. I have kind of helped people. Frequently, they can't make up their mind when they get real up here and analytical about the gem process. And I remind them, if you're feeling it in your heart, it's usually a yes. If you're feeling it in your gut, it's usually a no. There's almost this like punch in the abdomen, the initial resistance. But when somebody sees a gem and they love it, it's a heart calling more than anything. Something just wakes up in the heart chakra. That's the initial bond. Even through photos, especially when we have the opportunity to have somebody in the office in person seeing the gems. It's just incredible. It's like when they pick up their gem, I almost wish I could film it with some sort of aura camera. They light up.
I know.
It's just such
what
an
you're
obvious
talking about.
match.
And I'm thinking of the ruby that I can't stop thinking of. And it's not a deep red ruby. I actually am repulsed by that, but there's more of a pink fuchsia ruby. And every time I see that color, and I'm on your website and I'm like thinking of the ruby, there it is, and it's like there's just almost a gasp of like,
You'll light up.
that's the one. And
Yeah.
everything else pales in comparison. It's like,
Yes,
you know, those stories of you find your soulmate
it
and
does.
you can't see anyone else. That's how it feels with that fuchsia ruby.
Truly,
My one true
it's
love.
so bizarre. You're, you are dialing in exactly how it is. It reminds me of like a Miss America competition. You have these glowing, beautiful contestants, then the spotlight goes on the winner, and the others just dim. It's truly an interesting phenomenon, and frequently my job is to bear witness and let it happen and keep myself out of it. Now and then we have somebody who doesn't have those intuitive sensors really active, and I have to kind of point out, I'm like, please don't think I'm crazy, but that stone right there, that one right there, it's calling to you. It wants to go with you, and that is another phenomenon. You mentioned that there's like devatas in the gem. I would absolutely agree that they're conscious and that they also have preferences as to who they're meant to go to. And learning how to listen to that and put my own opinions aside and speak on behalf of the gems has been a skill I've learned to cultivate as well.
I just have to remind everyone that Tiffany is a teacher, a guest teacher in my Embodied Vedic Astrology certificate course. You can see why. I mean, the vast knowledge, the way that you express and share about these gems, it's just phenomenal. I know you have so much to share with us in this course, and I'm just thrilled that you'll be joining us in this process. We share a similar language. We have very similar intentions and understandings for how to use Jyotish. This is not a tool that is, I'm not interested in prediction. I don't use it for that. I don't care about what's going to happen in 6 months as much as, can we deepen this relationship with our body wisdom, our embodied knowing, trust in our own knowledge and wisdom, the inner authority, rather than handing off power to the outer authority. And so that's a curious question, because in some ways, I'm imagining, just like people use Jyotish, they want the stone to be that fixer, that outside of themselves thing that's going to take care of all the problems. But that's actually not the right use of Vedic knowledge and wisdom. So
they're illuminators. They're shining flashlights right on those parts that you may or may not be ready to look at. It's going to happen either way if it's meant,
be a backfire. I'm imagining, like, if you went into this thinking, well, I'll just get the diamond and I'm going to find the love of my life, that's probably not how it's going to go down.
No, and I mean this with so much unconditional love for the people who call us, but I have had a couple people who interact with subconscious resistance. Every conversation, it's just, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I know they're not doing it intentionally, but I find my own little inner porcupine quills are like I'm feeling defensive with them, and nothing I say is quite what they want to hear, and there's just not a flow state. And then they say, for some reason I'm single, and I really just I need a diamond to
need
attract
a
my dream
therapist.
husband. I don't
and
that there's a time and a place for gems, and there is a time and a place to work with a therapist or a coach who can gently inquire and bring up leading questions to help you look at some stuff. The gem's just going to be like, well, time to look at this. You had used the word precision earlier when it comes to the gems, and it's true. They're almost like a laser. It's almost like you're really just dialing in like a laser surgery to get to very specific areas where either you're stuck and you've been doing the conscious work, and I don't know, sometimes I have an experience, maybe you do too, where I'm like, I've done my darndest here, I've done everything I can, this has to be my karma. Like, okay, I'm chalking this up to karma. The odds that this is still not working with everything I've done, it's got to be karma. And when that feels true to me, then a gem can be really helpful, just to move something that I, for whatever reason, energetically am unable to move.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like wearing a yagya.
It's like a 24/7 mantra yagya on your finger.
Well, it just
exactly.
Every time I talk to you, I just want gems. I mean, I'm like, the ruby, the ruby, the ruby, the ruby. We're going for the ruby.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
I
I
think
think my
your
Ruby's
Ruby's
coming. And
coming. I
so,
really do.
Saturn's my strongest planet. It's in the 10th house. We all know Saturn doesn't deliver in your younger years overnight. So I figure this is the slow roll into success, and eventually this will all make sense. But
Your Ruby's gonna get on a bicycle and just slowly pedal to Colorado,
it's on the way
so
now, but he's still
slowly.
pedaling. So
It's still pedaling.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I want to keep,
Um,
I just cannot, it's like so hard for me to end these conversations because I just want to keep talking about this. I know that we said we were going to do a short video, but before we close, and I asked for this last time, give me one of your best stories of either a success or a failure, either way, but something that stands out for you. Like, what's a great story of a gem that just blew you away, like beyond your imagination of what could happen with a stone? Because even as experts in our field, I love being blown away by my own tools. Like, I'm still a doubter. My Rahu in the ninth, I'm such a doubter. I'm always like, well, we'll see if it happens, that doubting mind. So I like evidence. I like reminders. Give us a reminder here, Tiffany.
Oh gosh, so many come to mind. I'm trying to think of a concise one. Well, my dad, many years ago, who isn't really into wearing gems. A lot of men, it's kind of foreign to them to have.
Unless you're from India.
And unless you're from India, then it better be big. It better be. So he was going through a divorce with his wife at the time, and she had left him with this huge house, just barren, 3,000 square feet with just him. You could practically hear the crickets chirping. She took everything but the house. And he's like, well, I better put it on the real estate market. It was not a good time. It was not the right market to really move this type of stuff. To get back what he paid, he was really struggling. And it was listed for a really long time. And it was just getting increasingly uncomfortable for him to be in this space with this, upheaval in his life. K2 and Moon in the 4th house, very specific transit, Aries ascendant. And he was like, so often people call me or contact me as a last resort, and again, it's like, it's got to be the karma. There's some karma stuff going on. And I said, you're not going to like this, but you need a pearl. Let's put a big pearl on you, just big 10 carat. And he was like, oh God.
You can wear it as a pendant, I promise.
Behind it, under your shirt. Nobody needs to see it. So reluctantly, he let me put this little mini moon on him. Big old pearl, he's from the South in the 50s, like, what? But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And within a week, maybe 10 days, it was a very short amount of time, he had 3 competing offers on that house, one of which was more than he was even asking. They wanted it so bad. I'm getting goosebumps just telling this story again. Yeah. And so one of my favorite things to do is play what are the odds. So when you have a circumstance and the odds are so clear that the gemstone contributed, to me that helps to kind of validate this metaphysical science that we're doing something here. Silence, complete inability to sell this house, puts the pearl on, totally activates his 4th house, like helps out that K2 affliction. He just needed that boost. And just like that, he was able to close and get the heck out of there.
Wow, that's
very happy.
Well,
ever after.
I may be calling you for my dad. He might need a pearl. I think he was recommended a pearl at one point by a Jyotishi, and of course he's a Southern fella as well. So, but he's trying to sell his house. So I might be contacting you. We might have to figure out if he needs a pearl.
That's a game plan. We've learned how to make these almost like helmet, chunky armor pieces to like put the masculine element on the pearl. It's kind of hiding in there. Like, I'm still doing my job.
I can Don't still work under all this armor. Well, Totally.
reflection of
Well,
rarer.
and
Yeah.
of course, I love pearls, and thankfully, pearls are good for me. So, oh, can never have too many pearls.
Never have too many pearls. And I love your pink
Oh,
ruby idea.
oh,
And I just wanted to touch on that really quick, that you mentioned the resistance to the dark red and this attraction to the pinkish red. And it's so incredible how the spectrum of color, we discussed this in our opening with emeralds, with pink
mm,
rubies versus red rubies, there is an entirely different frequency and even quality of
mm,
the sun that we can channel. And the sun being such an interesting creator of all life, but also a
yeah.
natural malefic in astrology.
Mm,
The speaking to balance is so important, and we have found with sun gems that the pinks, even some of the spinels, they
mm,
impart this bright quality of the sun. It's kind of third eye awakening. The deep red is almost like
mm,
sun out of balance. Sometimes it can be almost
mm,
ego, or the qualities that maybe if there's just
mm,
too much of that doesn't work for certain people. So the people that already have kind of a relationship to the sun and the self and the soul and the soul's journey don't need such an intensely
mm.
saturated red color. That pink actually enhances them. It adds a sparkle to their spirit without blowing them out of balance. And I wouldn't be surprised if your
Oh,
higher self is like
totally. And
picking
I
up on that
just
a little
think
bit.
Shakti, Shakti, Shakti with this bright pink. And well, at some point, I'll have you look at my
Yes.
chart and we'll determine if it really is the ruby for sure. I'm pretty sure it is. That's what my sense is. And I'll share those
Mhm.
details privately, but I'm pretty sure it's the sun, not that Saturn.
Yeah.
I don't need any more Saturn, please.
Don't need it anymore. Yeah, we'll leave
And
that one as it
and
is.
so
Yeah.
just a reminder to all of you who are listening, join us in my Embodied Vedic Astrology certificate course. We're starting next week. Tiffany is one of our guest teachers who will be sharing her incredible knowledge and wisdom. I mean, we have world-class Vedic guides showing up in this course. It's just phenomenal to me. I just asked, and all of you just said yes. So here we go. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just incredible. And the individuals showing up in this course, I mean, it's even blowing me away. It's like, wow, it's better than I had imagined. So you're doing something right
Wow.
when the support and the people showing up are inspiring the teacher and the guide. Of course, that's how it should be. But it's right place, right time. We'd love to have you, and comment wait list below if you'd like those details. We do begin next week. This is kind of our last hurrah here, getting people in the door before we get started. And we've done lots of classes already on embodied Vedic astrology and what makes it different. So you can go watch those. Just a reminder that the best and the highest use of Vedic astrology is for healing and transformation, that self-development, personal growth, as well as Dharma, and honoring the path of soul purpose. That's really the highest use of this tool. And I'm curious, one last question, Tiffany, before we close, because it's so hard to let you go. Because the work that I do is Dharma focused. That's all I care about. That's my Dharma is Dharma. We get the people to
Totally.
align with trust, feel confident in their purpose, and be prosperous as well. How can the gemstones
Yes.
support the dharmic path and enhance this knowing, this truth of the soul and the soul light? How do the gems
Yeah.
help us with that?
I love that question, and I will apply it to my own experience personally. You mentioned your Dharma is helping people find their Dharma. Mine definitely has
Mm-hmm.
to do with the gems, and I can't not work with gems. They simply don't let me. Now that I'm covered in them, in addition to working in them, I couldn't leave the gems if I tried. And I almost feel like there's a magnetism to somebody's dharmic purpose, especially when we're strengthening planets with like a ninth house connection or a real clear, targeted, this is going to help you with life purpose. This is going to allow things to sink into place. I love the word synchronicity. I've been using that a lot lately when it comes to using gems for more alignment. So an alignment's another really great word. It's almost like there is a best possible path for almost all of us. What is required to get us on that path? Some people are so incredibly close and the gems will just take them by the shoulders and like put yes and send them on their way. Just a little bit of a course correction. And it's always interesting, do the gems affect our outer circumstances? If somebody has a dharmic calling, but they need circumstances to change a little bit, sometimes it does appear that the gems click things into place in their outer world so that they are more aligned, there is more synchronicity, and they can express and share and walk that dharmic path with that support from the planets behind them. I can't help but to wonder though, like from the quantum perspective, are we really shifting the perspective of the wearer so that they see the path ahead of them with more clarity and more enthusiasm and more alignment and more truth? So are we changing the outer world, or are we changing
very
the wearer
chicken
of
and
the
egg.
gemstones?
It's very,
always a question.
And so
Could
how
be
has
one
it
and the
changed
same.
your dharmic path,
Yes.
Tiffany? For those of you who may not know Tiffany, she does everything. I mean, when I look at what you're doing on your farm and with the earth and growing things, I mean, that's incredibly successful. Then you have this incredibly successful gem pathway that you've been cultivating for many, many years. It's almost like, is there anything you can't do? I mean, you just...
I know. It's
Oh,
wild. I drink a lot of
is that
coffee.
all it takes,
Well,
as it turns out?
that's all it takes. That's so true. I describe myself
Dual
as dual
Dharma.
dharma. I just popped out this way there, and neither thing I can let go. But it was very fascinating to do the creative work to integrate these two worlds for me. So the plant world, the herbs, the gems, they both mean so much to me, and I figured out how to maximize both. Now, also, I'll just note, as a Sagittarian with Jupiter in my second house, my yellow sapphires ruling my fourth house have completely brought me land. I was basically given the land that I grow on, massive cosmic support to build the house that I live in. I mean, all I had to do was basically say yes, which was terrifying. And everything that I needed to express my creative self fully has clicked into place. It's almost like this sensation of magnetism. All of these opportunities come to me, and I have to say, the only thing I have to do here is show up, be clear, be grateful, stay true, be honest, transparent, humble, ask for help when I need it, trust my inner wisdom when I need to rely on that. And years later, I'm almost 40, and every day I look at my life and I'm just like, I am so unbelievably grateful for everything I have that I've cultivated. There's just so much peace and sweetness and joy in all areas of my life. And I truly do attribute it to the gems that I'm wearing. I mean, there's almost no other explanation. It's almost stranger than fiction, but I've got the planets on my side.
I mean, what a great testimonial. I mean, let's just say, if the gemologist had a crap life, was miserable, it might not be a great sell here, Tiffany. But clearly the gems have really benefited you, brought so much support, and a reminder to all of us when we have that extra boost of cosmic support. And obviously it's Vedic knowledge and wisdom as well. I mean, I too think every day, I don't know how this happened, but I dropped in, right place, right time, right path.
Yes.
And it has not been without effort. But it truly, I mean, when you look around this world, I can't help but just feel immense gratitude and just very humbled to walk this path of Dharma and to know what Dharma is in a time like this. And to have that be the tuning fork, you know, it's like back to Dharma. Does this align with my Dharma? Is my body saying yes to this? Then that's the path.
Yes.
So one day at a time.
Yes. And one day at a time. And I love that tuning fork, the term self-referral. I don't know if that came from our community, but I love that one. And I encourage my clients so much to the best of their ability. Here I am, an astrologer, saying, don't ask astrologers these questions that are already in your body. You know, so many people ask me questions. I know they know. Sometimes I will ask creative questions back and just encourage that self-referral. And I think that's part of the dharmic path as well, is listening to that. So many of us, I think, just need almost permission from ourselves to admit that we are incredibly wise. We know the truth. It's in there. And the more we walk the dharmic path, I think the more that becomes self-evident, the tuning fork.
Absolutely.
Out of alignment.
And that's the difference, I would say, between my embodied approach to Vedic astrology and what you're going to get pretty much out there in the Jyotish world, which is, this is about cultivating your inner authority rather than the outer authority telling you what to do, to think, what steps to take, what choices to make. And believe it or not, our culture and our society is very ruled by the outer authority. What will they think? What do they want me to do? What should I do because everyone else is doing it? And the dharmic path requires, first of all, that you don't avoid your soul. Secondly, you got to show up for yourself first and foremost, and it is self-directed path. And the only way to do that is through body. So I'm not one of these body is not real, you know, body is actually extremely spiritual and sacred. And if we're in a body, it houses this, it's like your house houses you, your body houses your soul. So be in right relationship with that. And then the path becomes easier. The path becomes clearer. Dharma is just crystal clear if you know how to listen to, align with, and trust your own body and your body wisdom. The gems will help you with that for sure. Your practice, your sadhana, your meditation will help you with that. Yagas will help you with that. Jyotish, you know, it's my favorite of the Vedic tools, really. It will help you with that. But that commitment must first come from within. So no gem's going to change that if you have not made that commitment already within yourself. So if you've made that commitment to yourself and you want to strengthen your dharma and enhance that self-knowing from a body-centered perspective, a Jyotish-centered perspective, and you want material world success as well, you want to know how to grow your dharmic business in an embodied way, join us in the Embodied Vedic Astrology Certificate course. We start next week. Comment waitlist below, and I'll follow up with you there. Tiffany, is there anything you want to leave us with today? Any gem bombs you want to drop?
Well, I just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to working with you and collaborating for this class that you're teaching. I believe I'm going to be popping in sometime in the spring, maybe a few months. So you're going to be kind of bringing people through the introductory components. And by the time I pop in, I think that your students, the people you're working with, will have such a broad understanding of the best possible applications of astrology. So I love where you've got me timed. They're going to have content and I can come in and bring in the gems, and I don't have to be the one to say, I really, you know, I want to work with people who are already working on self-mastery and using Jyotish to deepen their understanding of themselves. You're going to have all of that covered. People are going to be self-educated.
These are some advanced students, actually, Tiffany. I mean, everyone who's joined the course, they've been studying Vedic knowledge and wisdom for many, many years. They have their own practices. Some of them are already sharing Jyotish or Ayurveda, and they have clients. They're very successful already. They just want to enhance what they're already doing and have a more embodied way of using this tool. In the Jyotish world, it's a very disembodied world, actually. It's very masculine centric. It's very much, you know, this is the separate thing from you. But the reality is when you're looking at your Jyotish chart, you're looking at a map of your body. So let's read it that way. Let's use that as a reference for understanding the cosmic body and this individual human body, and enhance our life, our choices, our behavior based on that. So yeah, you're going to be coming in to these incredibly wise students who are going to lay this powerful dharmic foundation, and then you're going to throw in this amazing gem wisdom, and they're just going to take it and run, and we'll see what happens, you know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, and I love that extra context that we have these high quality students, you know, that are already actively working with this knowledge, and that will allow me to fine tune what I share with you for my component of it. I will get into the nitty gritty and the nuance, and because I love that, you know, the black and white stuff just doesn't tickle my fancy. So we'll get fun with this. We'll work on some of the more beautiful.
I think you need to come up with a course, and we should talk about that. And then we can have people sign up for your gem course, because there's no way we can get all this into a 2-hour class. So we'll have to, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Great idea.
Thanks so much for joining, Tiffany. I want to have you back. Let's do this again, and then we'll just keep talking gems, and next time let's talk about compatibility and relationships.
Okay.
And we'll see where we are at that point. Okay, everyone, comment waitlist for details about the course. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Blessings to everyone. Bye.